Let's go to the NBA next, where there's been plenty of excitement this week. We had Jokic SGA, the MVP, off last night. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with a crazy game and then a buzzer-beating game winner that I would argue probably cements his MVP candidacy. We're going to do King of the Court here, but before we do you have any thoughts on that thrilling game last night?
I mean, yeah, if there was a game that was going to kind of settle that debate, it was probably it. Granted, he was like minus 350 and Jokic was like plus 600 in a very distant second with one game of availability to spare to become ineligible. So I think it pretty much locks it up. But I never brought this up in our Celtics chat, but I do think there was a good case to be made for Jaylen Brown for a long time, and he was nowhere to be seen in the odds, just given I feel like he's the definition of most valuable player this year. If they didn't have him, the Celtics would certainly be basically tanking or at least very much clinging to a play-in spot. But obviously that's cooked now with Tatum back. I don't think 20 games without him is going to be enough. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely solidified that.
Completely agree with the Jaylen Brown shout. I just sat back and was a fan last night. I had no action on the line between Jokic and SGA, and that was just NBA at its best when there's a meaningful moment in the regular season and guys are getting up for it, best of the best. That one got my attention, felt like a playoff game. But tonight, another thing that has my attention and everyone's attention, King of the Court, $2 million pool tonight. Is this one going how last week did, where there's two $1 million pools?
No, that is actually a great question. No, it is one pool of 2 million from now until the end of the season. That is that's the prize.
So they gave us a gift last week, and now they immediately ripped the gift away. That's what happened.
Yes, they did. Yeah, yeah.
It's okay. We'll take $2 million as a consolation. Yeah. It's still an upgrade over the typical $1 million pool. If you're unfamiliar with how DraftKings King of the Court works, it's my favorite promotion in sports betting. Shout out to DraftKings. $5 if you bet that on any player prop market, points, threes, assists, rebounds, anything. Use your King of the Court token on the bet. And that player leads all players that night in points, rebounds, plus assists. You and everyone else who picked that player will split a bonus bet pool. Tonight it is $2 million. So let's take a look at some top overall targets for tonight. Where do we start?
So I'll just quickly preface this with a mention that last week's 3 winners all came straight from the top 6 overall projections. Both Luka and Banchero featured in this segment. Only about 25% of the winners have come outside the top 10. I think actually even the top 8 of the projection. So moving forward, I think I'll keep the long shots, I should say, with air quotes, to within that range just for the sake of trying to keep things most likely to happen. We only got a few left here, so we haven't had much luck with the deep cuts, although a few have tapped in. So, any night somebody can win it, but we'll just keep focused on the top 8, I think, moving forward, unless somebody really jumps out in a great matchup or something. But unsurprisingly, Luka Doncic leads the way again, facing the Timberwolves. Got the highest PRA projection of the night at 51.0. Only player clearing 50 by a significant amount to about 7.5 PRA over the next player, Jalen Johnson. You got a 5-time King of the Court winner in him, claimed nearly a third of all promotions. So if you only bet Luka consistently, you would have returned about $180 total in bonus bets over the course of the season. Don't be surprised if he has another 1 or 2. Might end up as, a 7-8 time winner by the end of the season. He leads all players in projected points here as well, 34.6. Also assists, ranked 3rd. Let me just double check if that's changed. 4th now on the night at 8.5 behind Cade Cunningham, Jalen Johnson, and Josh Giddey. Interesting stat to target for me, I think, might be his threes. He's ranked 3.6 projected threes, which is the top, tied with Con Knippel atop the board for the Dimers model. Minnesota ranks 28th in opponent 3-point percentage, 2nd in attempts. So they're not giving up a lot of attempts, but they are allowing a lot of accurate shooters to hit those. He hit 5 and 7 in his last 2 games, absolutely chucking up shots with at least 14 attempts in both of those. 10 plus attempts in 4 straight. So he's been shooting the ball from deep and might have a decent matchup tonight against the Timberwolves, who allow a lot of, or the most accurate 3-point shooters pretty much. We'll say they are pretty good in all the other categories, not really any red flags or particularly glaring weaknesses. but it's Luka, and he can just do Luka things. Second, Jalen Johnson, Hawks versus Mavericks. Got him projected for 44.2 PRA. Might be the best matchup on the night positionally and just as far as defense is concerned. He's got the second most triple doubles in the NBA this season with 11. Did he win King of the Court? Actually, I should have put that in my notes here. I don't believe he won. I think he split the pot. He did. He split the pot with, ironically, Cooper Flagg. They're playing the Mavs tonight, but that's his only victory atop the board. Even though he's putting in tons of games where he's clearing 50 PRA and all these triple doubles, does have 3 games over 50 since February. It just seems to be putting him in on the wrong days and not Tuesdays. But Dallas ranks 26th in points, 24th in boards, 30th in assists allowed. That's dead last over their last 15 games. Gets even worse versus forwards. They are 29th or 30th in all 3. And for a triple-double at plus 345, last I looked on DraftKings, looks like a pretty good play. You don't have to go after him. I would probably just chase Johnson's boards if you're going after a single stat. But if you want like a little long shot, he's been around plus 200, plus 220 many nights. So it seems like a good number for him. Third, Cade Cunningham versus the Nets, projected at 41.6 PRA. I would consider him leading this next tier of players, so to speak. If you look at the projections, you've got Luka over 50, Jalen Johnson over almost 45, and then about 5 players within 39 and 41 PRA. But I'd call that the next tier, and Cade leads that. Came into the All-Star break pretty hot, 6 straight double-doubles, 4 games with 13-plus assists. Some weird, inconsistent spots, though. He had 1 rebound the other day, only has 5 total rebounds over his last 2 games, 10-point performance the other night in a really close loss to the Cavs where they could have used, 4 more points. They've lost 3 straight, but they do play the Nets tonight, so they should be pretty motivated to, compete heavily with the Celtics chasing them down for that top seed. Brooklyn does rank top 5 versus guards in all 3 points, rebounds, and assist categories over their last 15. So it might not be the best matchup for him, despite them being, a basement-dwelling team. If you're going to go after him, I'd probably go after his assists. He leads the whole slate at 10.4. So you're seeing more upside with him there than in the other categories. Only 5.8 boards, 24.9 points is solid, but it is outside our top 5 scorers. So if you're going after a single Cade Cunningham stat tonight, I'd probably look at the assists. And then moving to the 2 long shots, like I said, we're going to keep within that top of the board still, but players who are probably pulling a little less attention. Start with Giannis against the Suns, projected for 40 PRA on the dot. Dealt with injuries, trade drama this season, so he has had kind of a limited sample size here. But since he returned from his latest injury absence, his PRA totals have gone up in 3 consecutive games. This is very minor, but his play has ticked up by 1 minute per after they were kind of easing him along. I think another 2 days off here since his last game. He might be pretty well rested and getting possibly his highest minutes since he came back. Model did correctly predict that he'd snap his pretty long consecutive streak of going under 25.5 points the other night, included that in an article. He had his highest scoring game, highest PRA game since he returned even. Gets the Suns, who ranked 27th in opponent rebounds, so that would probably be the one number I'd target. He's 9.3 boards last I checked, which is surprisingly not even a top 5 mark, almost outside the top 10, but it's the highest in the game by a significant amount. 2 full boards higher than Bobby Portis, 3 higher than the top Suns player. And like I said, with 2 days of rest heading in, it's possible that Giannis gets back to his usual tricks here. He might be the guy I go with tonight. It's probably him or Jalen Johnson for me personally. And then just looking at our final guy, Anthony Edwards, who kind of funny to see him in what a long shot territory, but it just happens to be that's where he's shaking out tonight. Ranks 8th overall at 37.3 PRA. Rare company with Luka and Banchero as multi-King of the Court winners this season, as recently as last week with a $185 bonus bet, leading the whole slate with 49 PRA. He's a top 3 scorer in the NBA, but his complimentary assists stats are pretty modest. He ranks 81st in rebounds, 64th in assists. So it really all has to come together for him to do this. Or like he did in both previous wins, score 40 plus points. He scored 41 and 44 in both of his King of the Court appearances. So I guess if you're going to play him, you might as well take Anthony Edwards to score 40 points. It seems like the only way he's going to lead the slate unless it's a lower PRA total. And obviously there's only one winner tonight instead of 3. Granted, he was the top overall guy last week anyway. We do project him for 28.7 points, which is second on the entire slate. So, well behind 40, but it is second. And it's behind only Luka, who they're going against head-to-head tonight. So should be a little extra motivated, could bring out a little bit more competitiveness in him. The Lakers have been pretty good defensively versus guards. They did allow 3 straight 30-point games coming out of the All-Star break, none since. So they've been pretty good lately. I don't know if he's going to do it because of, things kind of seem to be pointing away from him. But if you're going to go after him, I'd probably just chase his 40 points and see if you can do it for a third straight time. Not third straight, but third time.
I think you nailed the pitch there. And you said the word competitiveness. That's Anthony Edwards to a T. He gets up for matchups. He will not hide from that. If you listen to him in All-Star Week press conferences, you understand how this guy is wired from his core to his heart to his brain. It goes back to even when he was drafted. The narrative was this guy doesn't even like basketball. No, he likes competing. And when there's a matchup, there's a reason for him to get up for. You see a totally different version of Anthony Edwards. You see a different guy in the playoffs than you do in the regular season. I don't know if that's worth some big picture dialogue at some point, but I know this. He's infinitely more valuable in games where he cares who he's going up against. Luka Doncic is one of those for him. It just is. I wouldn't call them rivals per se, but Anthony Edwards, anytime there's a player worthy of conversations of who's better, Ant or the opponent, especially if they're similar positionally, he just finds ways to give his best effort. And I think with the Lakers, right, defensively, absolutely, the numbers would say it's a tough matchup. Can Ant find ways to hunt Luka Doncic in this game? Or are they going to be able to hide Luka? That would be the question for me. I think the answer is yes. And I love the pitch of betting him up in points ladders tonight, or just take 40 plus. I'll be betting 40 plus. You've convinced me. And he's also my play for King of the Court tonight.
Nice. Let's go. I'm probably going to ride with Giannis and hope he kind of, does a little unexpected. I think he'll be a little overlooked tonight. But there's some really nice, 4-1 long shots here that line up pretty well with these matchups and some of these projections. Jalen Johnson triple-double. We have him projected right at the triple-double. And he's, what did I say, plus 385 or so. Anthony Edwards, 40 plus points is about 4-1. Giannis's 10 plus boards is plus money. So anything over that, which might be the best matchup for him tonight, is in some pretty good plus money territory. So again, as always, lots of things to take away from this besides just playing King of the Court. And I'll have some of those angles on my card for sure. Hopefully dropping some winners in the Discord later.
Absolutely. All right. I look forward to it. Let's speak it into existence.